glass is on my head. Nope. I already have something on my head. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Rose Quartz Divorce Podcast, where we explore different ways to shift the thinking around your divorce and any other kind of grief or loss. To reframe things and be in conversation because, listen, we're all human, we're all going through stuff, and life is about relating, realizing how connected you really are, even when you feel the most disconnected. So, my name is Diana D'Amato, and I am a divorce doula here with my friend Steven. So, divorce doulas is like our mission. That is our moniker that we've chosen. And doulas are caregivers. They are people that help you through the pain, through whatever transition that you're going through. So we are here to support. I'm also a mom and an entrepreneur and a lover of exploring all things. I remain curious in life, and I think that keeps my spirit young. So that's a little bit about me. How about you?
Hey everyone, Stephen Bryce back on your screen or at least in your ear. I am a liberator, entrepreneur, father, and friend among a number of other different titles and hats that I wear. But those four terms succinctly define who Stephen is. And so happy to be on this episode. It's another call. It's another live with my teacher and friend D. What's going on today?
Oh man, well, it's been a wild week as always. So I'm sailing through, just trying to keep my head above water. I've had multiple things going on, wonderful things, and I got to travel a little this week, go see some
Ooh.
of my old haunts back in San Diego, California. So I have a little bit of color, which on the East Coast, man, it's just been like so cold and wintry and everything. So it felt good. And the thing I love about traveling is that it changes what you look at. So that helps you look at things differently. So the horizon, for example, that I see on a daily basis on where I live, which is like a city suburb kind of, it's just kind of a grid. It's very different than the horizon that you see when you're at the beach, for example. Which it's always done my soul good to look over the water and like it's endless. Like the horizon, the water just goes on and on and on in those kinds of places. And there's something about that is for me good for my mind to just know that the possibilities are endless. Like infinity goes on and on and on. Although I did recently find out that there's a way to actually like quantify infinity, which kind of blew my mind. Maybe we'll talk about that later. Yeah, because it's always just been like, oh, infinity, but there's actually a way to count it. It's like I can't remember the guy's name. Shoot, it's like somebody's hotel, and it starts with an H. I don't know. Maybe you can like Google it. But basically, the concept is like there's a hotel that's full. It's absolutely full. Like infinity is full, but a whole group of new guests show up to. Then they need a room at the hotel. So this keeps happening, and what happens is the existing infinite number of clients or guests is already in there, but they know that they just have to move up a floor. So they move up a floor, and the next layer of people comes in, and that's how like you can count infinity. I'm putting it in very simple, non-mathematical terms, but I think it's like it's really interesting because it's like everything is quantifiable and also not. Like we've talked about this before, how like the difference between the sun and the sunshine is really hard to explain, right? But you kind of get it, but you also realize they're very much the same. And it's like, the concept of like there are infinite ways to look at things, infinite ways to think about things. It came back into my mind as I was looking out over the ocean. And it's really important as you're going through difficult times to, I think, have that kind of, it's not just an open mind. It's not just being like liberal and open and curious or whatever. It's more about really um, thinking about different ways to solve problems. And I think that's, that's so important for us to remember when we're going through something like divorce, because there seems a lot of times like there's just one way that this is going to go, and this is the way I want it to go, this is the way I need it to go, this is the best way for it to go. And really like unlinking yourself from that and kind of like thinking like, okay, there's a whole nother layer of information that can move up into my mind hotel and help me find a way through this that is creative, different, or and also just will bring you more peace.
I I think the that this idea of infinite ideas or possibilities, it meets at the core of what it means to be a student of life, right? We were all domesticated in a certain way, to think a certain way. And in that domestication alone is profoundly limiting, right? We were born in America, right? For example, or let me even parse it even more, right? I was born in Brooklyn, New York, to Haitian immigrants, right? Who are legal, by the way, right? So don't come after my parents; they're legal. um, and 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 I grew up within a really strict conservative Christian way of seeing the world, and that has shaped the way I see the world, how I see myself and other human beings, and so on and so forth. But it's the task of the human being, of the person, to honor their perspective, their worldview, but then also be open to see what's out there in the abyss, what is out there in the deep blue ocean sea, however you phrase it, right? And that allows us to be more mindful and considerate, and most importantly, humble, right? Our world isn't the end all be all, right? There is more to this thing that we call life than our little bubble that we live in, that we exist in, that we may even thrive and rule. And so I think you're hitting on something that is often overlooked, especially within the context of marriage and romance, right? When you're interacting with someone that you like, that you're interested in, you have to be aware that they are nothing like you, or possibly there's nothing like you, and they have ideals that might be radically different than yours. Let me give you an example, and I'll land here. The past couple of days, perhaps weeks, I've been so I news flash, breaking news. I imagine myself getting remarried many, many years from now. Because I'm open to having more children. I want to have more children, and I want to do it within the context of a marriage. So, because I have that vision, that imagination, I need to prepare the people in my life today for that future. I do not want to wake up one morning, or show up on the doorstep of my family and say, "Hey, I'm engaged, I'm about to get married," or "Hey, I have kids on the way." I as a visionary, as a leader, I believe that's important for me to prepare my people for the future. So I've been having these conversations with my kids' mom and my children, letting them know that I, Stephen, am getting ready to expand my life. Not in the immediate, hopefully not in the immediate, but in the future. This way, it allows everyone to go through their emotions and things of that nature. And some of the exchanges that I've been having with my kid's mom has been, "Hey, Stephen, I'm not sure that's a good idea to bring more kids into the world, because you live far away from your kids already. It's going to make it really challenging emotionally for the kids." And I totally get where she's coming from. I understand, as a mom caring for her cubs, as she would call it, that she's concerned that there might be a battle, between among kids and siblings, and I totally get that. But I have another person. I honor and respect, and I'm putting into consideration her perspective. But I also have a perspective as the leader of my family, and I'm thinking about the legacy. I'm thinking about beyond my lifetime, right? And so I'm bringing that up to say that there are infinite amount of perspectives that we're all living in and walking towards, and it's important that we respect each other's perspectives, consider each other's perspectives, and be mindful, and make the best decisions that we can given the various perspectives that might clash along the way. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does, and it also, like, amazes me that, you're having the foresight and the energy and, like, the wherewithal to have these conversations. Because I think that's the breakdown in most situations, relationships, divorces or not, in any relationship, a work relationship, a friend relationship. It's like, if we could just all kind of put it out there ahead of time and then receive back that kind of like reflection, even if it's a disagreement, like even if it's like, well, I don't really think that's a good idea, but you're in the conversation.
Right.
Um, and we can all do whatever we want to a certain degree. So for you to go ahead and say that up front is great because you could do it anyway. You could do it anyway, and everybody would just have to deal with it. But I think
Right.
what you're explaining is really fascinating to me because I I believe unfortunately most people are not um, able to have those conversations either because they don't know how to do it or they're afraid of confrontation of some kind, or they don't care enough to do it. It's just kind of like a FU, like I'm going to do what I'm
Mm.
going to do. Or what really comes up for me is that the person's receiving that information are are going to shut it down, right? And that's a very common thing. And if we kind of relate this to marriage and the breakdown of marriage, that's one of the highest indicators that a relationship is not going to work out, that a marriage is not going to work out. And this research was done by a guy. His last name was Gottman, and for some reason I can't remember his first name right now, but it might have been like Jonathan something. But Gottman has done this research where it's like the number one indicator that a marriage is going to break down is if there is something called stonewalling present. Have you heard of stonewalling? You can probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, stonewalling is like it's when somebody just, shuts down the conversation. They might walk away. They might say, "That's the stupidest thing I ever heard." They might insult you in some other way. They might give you the cold shoulder, silent treatment. But that's sort of how stonewalling works, and it is a relationship killer.
For sure. For
Yeah,
sure. And
yeah.
I in my past, I have in some ways stonewalled, in my relationships. I used to shut out whenever the topic got a bit too intense, or if I felt like I wasn't being heard, I will just shut out. I will just say, "Hey, I'm good. I don't want to engage in this back and forth if we're not listening to understand." And I think in some ways now that I'm a little bit more mature, I I hope to be a little bit more gentle and more patient when emotions are heightened, right? So opposed to me withdrawing, I will stay in the conversation and try my best to be as l- and feel free to push back here. I'll try my best to be logical, but it's kind of I think me being logical clashes with the emotions, right? And I don't know the how to be. Apparently, according to my therapist and according to other people, I don't know how to be emotional. I don't know how to relate emotionally. And I think I'm very expressive. It just might sound very organized, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't come from an emotional place. It's just structured. Help me with that, D, because
I
I'm
think it's,
it's been
what you
a hot
the way
topic.
the way you present right now in life is that you're available for it. So then, that's you're open to it, but the personal work is actually being able to do it. And I think this is so important for people to hear too. Is like, you don't have to be there. You don't have to be there yet. You just have to be available for conversation, right? And you don't have to know how to do it, because actually, like, the thing, now some people that stonewall, they are like narcissists, like they're shutting you down, they're there to like hurt your feelings with their comebacks and then shutdowns. But most of the time, I will say it comes from being psychologically overwhelmed or emotionally overwhelmed. So it's easier to just shut it down, I think, as you kind of said, and not engage in that whole thing and kind of be like, I'm going to compartmentalize this. What's happening isn't logical. But the point is, like, we all have to seek that progress in ourselves. We all have to, like, overcome that nature, as I always say. And like, we all have different weaknesses, and the work every day is
Hmm.
to overcome that nature, to just be available, and like eventually it will come. And when it does, you're going to be the master of it, because when something is difficult and you have to work to figure it out, you understand it from the inside out. You've had to, like, go in there and kind of dig in the dirt and figure out what's going on. So when once you do it, it's really empowering. You become, like, that's the precipice you're kind of on, is like, I'm thinking about this, I'm available for this, I'm not there yet, but I'm right there on the edge of that cliff looking over the water, and eventually you dive in. And I think that's, it's just like yoga teachers. Like, the best yoga teachers are the ones, in my opinion, that struggled. They're not like the gymnasts and the ones that just could do everything, because it's very hard for them to understand why someone can't do a handstand or a back bend, or something like that, because it comes so
Yeah,
easily. But when you've been down in the and you've fallen on your face and you've had to pick yourself up and be available for that again, you become
talk
the
D.
master
Hmm.
of it.
Yeah, yeah. You're talking. You're dropping the gem right here, right now. Absolutely. There's
I know,
nothing
because I
beats.
know
There's
I've
ne-
been on my face so many times. I have fallen down and, it bit the dirt so many times. And, I think with the divorce process, you go through these cycles of up and down, where you have those times where you're okay. I got this. I'm doing this. And you have times where you are like blubbering on your bathroom floor, like everything is the worst it could possibly be. And then you're back up again, like, okay, like, I kind of handled some stuff today, and I got this. This is gonna work out. We're moving forward. And then, another letter comes in the mail or something, and you get pulled into that undertow again. So, I get it. Like, there are those ups and downs, but it's like surfing those waves that is, the way you learn to navigate them. And like in yoga, the very beginning of yoga is, there's the Yoga Sutra that's often interpreted or translated as, yoga is the control of the thought waves of the mind. We go in, that's like the first teaching, basically. And yoga is the control of the thought waves of the mind. I think it's hard to understand that. It's like, how am I ever going to do that? Like, I can't control my mind. Sitting to meditate, like, a million things are going on. Like, I can't. But I think it's better translated is, yoga is the smoothing out of the waves of the mind. That's why
Yeah.
I learned to understand it for myself, right?
You are preaching tonight, D. I don't know if you hear it, what you're saying, but you're dropping gems. I love that.
I mean, we think of the ocean like the tide never stops. Like, it's going to go in and out, but how we learn to navigate those waters is what's really important. So if you are in a
Mhm.
relationship with somebody who is not really available, who is stonewalling you, that's something you can observe and recognize and learn how to deal with it, because it's a high conflict kind of situation, actually, when somebody is shutting you down or insulting you in a way that shuts you down, belittles you, or giving you the silent treatment. That's very painful, actually, when someone's just
Yeah.
ignoring you aggressively. Oh man, I lived in a household that, when I was a kid growing up, but my dad had several marriages and divorces. And there was one time when there was a divorce going on where we were all still in the same house, but they weren't talking. And it was like 3 months of absolute horror. Like, being in a house with people who are aggressively ignoring each other is like violent, it is really
Yep.
one of the harshest things. So I understand, like, if somebody's dealing with that, like I've been there, I've lived in that cold silence, and it's hard to combat, because they don't let you do anything essentially. So I was thinking of, like, as we're talking about this, like some ways to kind of surf that particular situation. And I've talked about this before, but I'll bring it up again because it feels like it's related. Is something I always tell anyone, if any one of my girlfriends, people I work with, or whatever, that has somebody coming at them, about the gray rock method. Have I talked to you about this before?
Mm-mm.
No?
No.
Okay. So I love the gray rock. So someone shared this with me when I
Okay.
was first going through my divorce. So again, I'm so grateful for that, and I like to pass it on. Um, so the gray rock is, I guess, similar to stonewalling because they're both kind of rocks, and it's also it's a way of putting up a protective front. But the gray rock is not done. It's not done aggressively, right? So it's just a way that when someone is coming at you or stonewalling you, that you take a beat and keep it very, very simple. Very, like, in fact, when I do this, I picture like a big gray rock. Like, nothing can move it, nothing can change it. This is what's happening. Let's keep it to the facts at the time. So someone's coming at you, you know, you're doing this all wrong. You're stupid. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard, like, and not in a funny way. When they're coming at you, like that, to just be that gray rock and take your emotion out of it. The gray rock doesn't have emotions. It can't be moved like that, even by crazy waves. Right? The waves just
Yeah.
hit and the water rolls off. So your responses are, much more simple, kind of like, okay, well, that may be how you feel, but dinner's at 6. It's still at 6, and that's what's happening. Goodbye. Okay, well, you think that's the craziest thing you've ever heard? It's not. And I'm going to be going out with my friends this evening. Goodbye. You really kind of, like,
Wow.
succinctly, yeah. You don't respond, like, back at them with the same kind of aggression, even though they're being very quiet, right? That's still aggressive. You don't try to get anything out of them. You just shrink it down, right? And let that water roll off. Does that make sense?
It sounds very sim. Yeah, it sounds. So the way I'm imagining it in my mind is one. the messenger keeping their expectations low of the person that might be, hard to communicate with. And then you're also creating a fence around your heart and your mind to not largely be impacted by the behavior of your significant other. and
Yes,
and you're still communicating very very clearly and concisely, like, this is what's happening, see you later, or good night, or good morning,
you're
whatever the
not
case may be.
giving them, though, the
I
juice. They're trying to squeeze you, and you're not giving them the juice out of that
Yeah,
squeeze. That's the key. So, where
yeah.
stonewalling, again, it tends to be done by people of a certain psychological type, that is difficult to deal with. Gray rock is not to be used in, every kind of scenario with every kind of, abusive type person, but in some
Hmm.
scenarios, you can really reduce the conflict, which I think is really important. And I will say this again, this is something I tell like coworkers and things, because sometimes when you're at work, some, like, whatever job you do, some person will get under your skin. Some person will say something that aggravates you or insults you, and you just got to picture yourself like a little gray rock and be like, okay, that is that is your opinion, and I have some work that I need to go do. Boom. You know,
Yeah,
um, yeah, it's a I think it's a very useful little method.
for sure, for sure. I'm rocking with that.
The old gray rock. Well, I hope that's helpful to some people. Please let us know in the comments if you've ever heard of the gray rock method, if you'd like us to, in a future episode, go more into it, because it just kind of came up today, but I'd love to share more about it when we have more time. Or if you have any other things that you'd like us to go into as well. Um, I do want to bring something up before, I always bring something up for you before we close out, Stephen. But this one's kind of personal. And we've been recording these podcasts for like a year now. And I made a boo boo and I want to make an apology. So, in a recent episode that we recorded, we put out the clips on our Instagram, and that's Rose Quartz Pod, where you can find that on Instagram. And a friend of mine, who I'll keep anonymous, commented on the episode that we did where we were talking about grief and loss and death, and we got into some of the hot topics to talk about with your partner, like money and power, and specifically sex. Now, let me say the clips that we put out are just little clips. So they're not always contextual. Like, in the grander scheme, some of them might mean different things or you get more out of it, right? But I do want to apologize because I made such a big deal in one of our clips about like how important sex is, and like if you're not having sex then you're not in a marriage, and that's a deal breaker for me. Like I said some, and we were being very conversational and kind of like just going off of each other, Stephen, you and I. But I definitely made a very big deal about that. And there was a comment with somebody. I was like, actually, there are some sexless marriages, and they are still very loving, and there can still be a lot of intimacy, and romance and everything. And I just want to say thank you, for saying that. I think that's really valid. And I'm just at a point in my life where it's important to me. But in the episode, Stephen, you did say, hey, if you have the energy for it, then, but, out of context, that wasn't seen in the clip. So I really apologize. And, I'm sure there are a lot of very happy, beautiful, intimate relationships out there that are built on more than sex. So,
And so on that note,
I
well,
apologize.
have a
I'm
good night, folks.
sorry. But it's the whole thing with like there are infinite ways to go about all of this. There are infinite thoughts. My
Yeah,
thoughts are valid as well, as are my friends, and
absolutely. Hmm.
and we'll just keep moving thoughts into that Hillbridge Hotel. That's what it is. So we'll just keep moving infinite ways of looking things into the hotel. So I want to thank you all for hanging with us tonight. Thank you, Stephen, for being here and being my partner in all things divorce doula. Love you dearly. Love Joshua Bright. Thank you.
Love you
We haven't
too,
figured out how to actually get the music into the podcast yet, but I still love him. And we're gonna. And you can find us on our
for
website too
sure.
at rosequartzdivorce.com. You'll see much more information there about our doula offerings and practices and a little bit more about us too. So please
For
send us
sure.
messages, chime in, tell your friends, and subscribe. We'll be here every Thursday night.
See you soon. Bye.
All right. Love ya. I always forget
Love you
where the
too.
stop button is. I don't have my glasses on.